Alright lads and ladies, it's time to make the one video I really didn't want to do. The FF16 review. So, this is a game I had very high expectations for. There's a lot of prestige and talent behind the studio making this, and I really thought this game would be something special. Boy oh boy, I could not have been more wrong. It's quite the opposite of something special. So, let's just go ahead and get into it. First of all, there will be some spoilers I am bringing up here. If that bothers you, then feel free to click off or come back after you've played the game. But there will be some spoilers brought into this. Okay, so we'll start with the things I liked. The music is mostly really great. There are times where it really doesn't fit. I'll mention that in the bad later. There are times where the music definitely does not fit the scene, but for the most part, it is just really cool. Just absolutely badass music. I love it a lot. Not really much else to say, just great music. Combat is mostly very, very fun. There's a lot of variation, very high skill ceiling, using stomp, lunge, down thrust, icon abilities to go into other icon abilities is just very, very good. Combat is very well thought out, although there are some basic features just weirdly missing that are just not here for some reason. I can't fathom it. I'll go ahead and say this. This video is going to be a lot of me agreeing for once with both Synthetic Man and Shill Up. So, there you go. Visuals are mostly good. There are times where it looks off. I will mention this in the bad section of the video. There are times where things definitely do look off, but for the most part, the game is absolutely gorgeous. They managed to make that 14 engine look halfway decent, I'll say that much. Icon fights are amazing. They are the selling point of this game. They're amazing, and it's unfair to say there should be more of them, but I will mention why I say that when we get to the bad section again, because I have a lot of complaints about this game. We're just blowing through the good stuff real quick. The story in the first half of the game is very good, pretty much up until, I would say, when you beat Bahamut. From there, the story just nosedives, just gets way, way worse. But pretty much until you kill Titan and beat Bahamut, the story is very good, the writing is very tight, the characters are very good. I like it a lot, and the characters in the first half are very good. They all have meaning, they all have purpose, they seem to all know what they're doing. Competent characters all around, very good, and the world building in this is fantastic. The world building in this is some of the best I've ever seen. Now let's get to the bad. So basically, the story in the second half is horrible. The story is terrible. It just nosedives completely, falls off a cliff. It goes from being a tale about dominance and the way they have to deal with the world to, no, what if this alien guy just kind of showed up and just like wanted to reclaim the world because they're the fallen and whatnot. Like, what? It was so stupid. It was so stupid. The villain was horrible. There's no compelling villain in this game. Barnabas, I thought Barnabas would be cool. He just parrots back the same boring stuff Ultima says. Ultima's terrible. He's boring. He doesn't have a decent motivation. He's not charismatic. He has no redeeming qualities. He's not cool looking. Nothing. Ultima is extremely, extremely boring. He makes for a fun final boss, but he's just a really, really, really boring, terrible villain. If when they do another Dissidia, I really hope they do Barnabas as the villain for this game and not Ultima. But the only thing Barnabas has over Ultima is that he looks cool, but that's about it, man. The villains of this game are terrible, and the story of this game is really, really bad in the second half. It is just so predictable. I might put the clip up here now. At the end, when you were walking to fight Ultima with Joshua, I literally said, I bet that Ultima's gonna bust out of his chest just like in Alien. I literally said that word for word. I will put the clip on screen right now. I bet the the Ultima he absorbed
that light, so cool.
is just gonna bust out of him like an alien.
We're close, aren't we?
It's gonna be just like an alien.
Seems that way, but I don't want to think what could be waiting for
Full
us.
on chest burster.
Then think instead of
He's gonna wake him up, and the one inside of Joshua is just gonna explode out. Guarantee it. He's gonna do it, isn't he? Full on chest burster. Please, this is gonna be so funny. I cannot wait to be right.
I thought it was me, but it wasn't my grasp. that grew weaker. It was theirs that grew stronger.
That was some Exorcist stuff there. It's as predictable as the sunrise, bro. Full-on chest burster. And sure enough, guess what happened? Bust right out of his chest, and I just started laughing because I knew it. The story gets so predictable. Everything I can see around every single turn. I could not stand the story. It was so unenjoyable, and it didn't help that the side content in this section got way worse. The side quests throughout the entire game remain very much mid to terrible, and the first half of the game, the side quests are mid. They're decent. The second half, it's not that the side quests got that much worse, it's that they just kept putting more and more of them in there. They were adding side quests in this game like they thought they were the greatest things known to mankind. The side quests were horrible. There were so many of them. There's one part, I think it's like 70% of the way through the main campaign, where it says, well, where it gives you like 10 side quests, and I was exhausted. I hated it. And then at 87% through the campaign, it just backs up a dump truck and just dumps 20 side quests on you, and they all suck. They're all terrible. The side quests of this game are absolutely abysmal. And I know people say, well, they're fetch quests. FF15 has only fetch quests, and that's your favorite game ever. First of all, I'm not under the delusion that 15 is a great game. It's a good game, and I like it a lot. It means a lot to me personally. But you know what really, really makes 15 side quests so bearable? Because the characters talk to each other. In the second half of the game, the characters have nothing to do. It feels like they all kind of finished their arcs, and now they're just bumbling along their story. They got nothing to do. The story is dragging them along instead of the characters driving the plot forward. Instead of the characters driving the plot is driving the characters. And it's very, very, very annoying. Considering how tight the writing was at the first half of the game, it's really disappointing to see that in the second half, none of them have anything to do. Again, like I said, they just kind of bumble along the plot. They have nothing to do after Bahamut. It's just nothing at all. Boring, boring, boring characters. What else was it? Geez, there's so much negative stuff that I can't halfway keep it straight in my head. Scenes where the music doesn't fit. There's a couple times. In the Typhon fight, it plays dubstep. Why? It's so weird. Like, it's not a bad track, it just doesn't fit the scene. When Sid dies, it plays the Hideaway theme. Again, a good track, but Jesus Christ, I was getting a wee bit emotional at that scene, and then I heard the same music that got played when I was delivering bowls of stew to people, and and it just completely killed the emotion. I don't understand what they were going for with that. And against Titan Lost, the big Titan, the music that plays in the first half of the Titan Lost fight is horrible. It's just weird J-rock, and not that J-rock is bad, but this was, dude, I'm telling you, it was really bad. And then it cleans up in the second half because I think the lyrics go away. The music just really had moments where it didn't fit, but overall, I really like the soundtrack. I just wish those scenes had a proper music to it. What was I going over here now? Whatever, we'll continue on. Clive's base moveset. Now here's the thing, while the combat is fun, the combat is good, it's got a lot of variation, there is an issue. Clive's base moveset is not big enough. It's not. You have the same 4-hit combo, plus magic burst, you can lunge, helm splitter, and yeah, that's about it. There's not really anything else here. And the issue is, there's no air launcher. I know you can use Torgal for it, but the only way to really follow up after Torgal's air launch is to use Phoenix Shift. and it kind of sucks that you would have to always have that icon on if you wanted to do air combos. I know people will say, oh, you should always have it on anyways because it's good. Yes, you should, but the fact is they shouldn't make you do it to have air combos. It's common sense. Why does he not have an air launcher? Dante has it. Nero has it. The guy who made these combat systems, one of the most competent people in the action game scene, just was like, huh? I have no idea. What's an air launcher? He just had no idea. It was so confusing to me why Clive didn't have that, and why you can't get more combos as you go. It just made no sense to me. For God's sakes, even God of War got that right. Even the new games did. They even got that right. The limit break isn't good enough. Like, it doesn't feel nearly as good as Devil Trigger. It's not anywhere near as useless as Spartan Rage or anything from the God of War games, but man, it's nowhere near as good as Devil Trigger. It really does feel like an aesthetic thing. It's something to just look really cool. But it's just not good enough, man. You don't, like, HP doesn't regen fast enough. You don't do that much more damage. Limit break is just flat out not good enough. If there's a few things that needs a buff and a patch, this is one of them, for sure. Limit break is just flat out not good enough. The performance, this game runs like shit. This game runs terribly. For the first, like, third of the game, I ran it in performance mode, and I eventually switched it over to quality just to see the difference, and I could barely tell the difference in the frames. Like, performance mode stays that close to 30 FPS, where the difference was so minuscule. This is one of the few times where I've said, yeah, I'd rather just watch it in a higher quality. Like, I would take the 4K over the 1080p 37 FPS any day of the week. This game runs terribly. It's pretty obvious to me that this game was made and optimized for 4K 30, and then they tried to tack on that performance mode, probably because of the outrage when Redfall got announced to not have a performance mode, or similar games like Plague Tale. But it really does run very badly, and even though usually it runs at a solid 4K 30 without frame drops, there's sometimes an exploration where it does dip. In combat, it stays pretty smooth, but in exploration, when I was running around on Ash, Waloed, there were definitely parts where the frame rate definitely chugged down to below 20. Like, I would move my camera around and I would be like, Jesus Christ. Like, and there's also not a motion blur toggle, which is really weird. Just really weird things in the game that just, like, it feels nitpicky to bring them up because you never have to, because it's common sense not to do certain things. Like, again, an air launcher, it feels nitpicky, but it's because it's common sense that it's supposed to be there. You have a jump button, you have an aerial combat system, and you don't have an air launcher in an action game. What are you doing? I don't get it. But bring performance mode, or quality mode, sounds nitpicky because, oh, it does run pretty well most of the time. But, like, obviously it's not that optimized if there's parts on one of the zones where it chugs down to below 20. So, I don't know, it's just bizarre decisions all around. Something else, the lip sync of this game, it wasn't that distracting until the final boss. It was okay at first, but then you get to the final boss, and it is at From Software levels of just not even trying anymore. The lip sync is absolutely abysmal in the final boss. He just opens and closes his mouth at random. It's very, very bad. Now, throughout the game, it was never distracting, but in the final boss, like I said, it was at From Software levels of just not even trying anymore. What else is there? The non-mocap cutscenes, they look like shit. They are terrible. They look very, very, very dated. This game, in terms of the non-mocap cutscenes, looks like a PS2 or 3 game. It's very, very bad. Extremely dated looking cutscenes in that regard. For the visuals, I said they mostly look good. Now, mostly, because there are still some of the character models that look really bad. Like, there's a couple of the character models in this game that look like they waltzed fresh out of Final Fantasy 13, and I'm not kidding. There's some times where it looks really bad, and there's times where it looks insanely good. But there's a lot of times where I was playing this game and I was like, oh wow, that looked rough. That was very, very bad. That is nitpicky, but it's still worth mentioning because this is a PS5 game. What else is there? Level design. The level design for the actual levels is just nothing. It's just a series of hallways connected by combat arenas, which I love the combat, but the level design is just not interesting to go through, man. There's just nothing there. It's structured like a Lego game. You walk in somewhere, you fight the enemies, door opens, you leave. Like that is the level design of this game. The zones themselves. Now, I do like the idea of the big zones. I like this much more over an open world. It allows it to have a lot more detail without taking nearly as much time. These zones are very, very detailed, and I like the look of them a lot. They all feel unique. However, they're empty. There's nothing to do with them. Like, besides the same, like, absolute dog shit side quest, there's really nothing to do in these zones, man. There's nothing. I really wish there was, but there's nothing to do in these zones. You just kind of wander from point A to point B, and they wait until you're halfway through the game to give you a chocobo for some reason. Thank God they were nice enough to give it to you before you go to Dalmekia. That would have been a long run. There's just so much wrong with this sort of thing. And going back to the graphics, one thing I forgot to mention, after you kill Bahamut, or beat Bahamut, you don't kill Bahamut, when you beat him, Ultima, like, just covers the sky in dark clouds, and so, like, even when the environments do look good, you can't see it anymore, because it's all cloudy now. Like, you can't see whether or not the environment actually looks good, because it's just so cloudy. Like, it just removes the visuals. And the music here, I think it starts playing like the same song in every single zone during this part, which is really weird. Like, all the zones start to look the same in this phase. Like, you should never have it where deserts look like wetlands look like forests, and forests look like stony walls and plateaus. Like, you should never have that. But sure enough, that's what they did. This was a lot of complaining about FF16. This game really should have been better. Common sense dictates that a lot of this stuff should have been fixed, but it just wasn't. I don't know. I feel like they're setting up for a 16-2 with that ending, because it's left ambiguous. Like, it's, oh, did Clive die? Did he not? It feels more like they're just waiting to see if people want DLC for it. If so, please put Leviathan in this game. It's my favorite summon, and she's just not in the game for some reason, but she did get name dropped. So I really hope that this game can get a sequel, because I'll tell you this much. Even though I didn't love this game, if this game gets a sequel and improves on everything this game did, fixes a lot of the issues I have, you're looking at a masterpiece. But as it stands right now, the game it's just not good enough, man. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. This game is too long. This game is way, way, way too long. Like, you could cut out probably 10 to 15 hours of this game and not miss a single thing. Not a single thing. And this is what I mentioned earlier when I was gonna say, oh, needs to be more icon fights. And I've seen some people say this. You can't ask these developers to say, hey, all those insanely elaborate set pieces that you did, do a bunch more of those. No, these things took years to make. Titan, Bahamut, Ultima, these set pieces took years to make. You can't expect them to do more. What I can expect is the pacing to not suck. That's what I can't expect. Pacing was another issue in this game. The pacing was all over the place. It was absolutely dreadful. The dialogue got a little bit Kingdom Heartsy in some areas. They were talking about, oh, what did the Kingdom Hearts crew work on for this game? I'll tell you, it was the dialogue. In the second half of the game, the dialogue gets so Kingdom Heartsy, and I couldn't stand it anymore. It was so annoying. Synthetic Man put this in the most amazing way possible. I don't often agree with Synthetic Man or Shell Up, but they both really hit the nail on the head. Synthetic Man had said, this game is trying to mix Game of Thrones, Kingdom Hearts, and Dragon Ball Z. And if that is not the most accurate thing I've ever heard in my life, because it is completely true. It tries to mix these three very different things, and it just comes out looking like shit. That said, as much negativity as I'm bringing to this game, it's not bad. The production value is really high. The action combat is really good. The first half of the story and with the characters is really good. The music is very, very good. The visuals look mostly good until Ultima covers the sky in clouds. The boss fights are insane. The best in the industry. There's nothing in the industry that's I don't even think anywhere close to the level of the Titan fight, Bahamut fight, or Ultima fight. It just looks so good. Maybe my opinions will change on this on a second playthrough. It's what happens a lot for me. I don't like a game, play it a second time, end up loving it. We'll have to see, but for right now, settling on a score for Final Fantasy XVI, I'm giving this game a 6.5 to a 7 out of 10. You could probably talk me down to a 6. You couldn't talk me above a 7. Game's just got too many issues, and I know a lot of Yoshi P stands are gonna be really upset if they see this video, because he's got so many fans, man. So many die-hard defenders. But if I compare this to other Final Fantasies, it's not better than 7 Remake. No way. It's better than 15 1.0, but 15 right now, after all of its DLC, I think it's better than 16. I'm sorry, it is. The story is more consistently decent. The combat is nowhere near as good, but it's consistently fun. Like, I can play 15 100 times. In fact, I'm on my 14th playthrough of 15, and I still love the game. I still play this game for hours and hours and hours. There's stuff to do in the world. There's side activities. There's just so much stuff. The characters talk to each other. There's a problem whenever you take on a side quest in 16, or you do literally anything, the most a character will say is, "Come on, let's go." That is the most they ever say. Whereas in 15, the bros often have full conversations about literally anything. There's so much dialogue between the bros. It is just so entertaining, and I love it. I'm very disappointed with this game. Final Fantasy 16 deserves better. 6.5 to a 7 out of 10 is my final score. There's a great game in here somewhere. I'm sure there is. But for the life of me, I just couldn't find it.